Lots of exciting new things are on the horizon for the Wyatt Sicks, so we'll see what's new there. We'll also check out what's happening with The Miz, Jey Uso, and much more. Starting things off with some pretty exciting developments for Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Sicks. The Wyatts bursted onto the scene back in June, with Chad Gable being the focal point of their attacks. And there was a very specific reason why Chad Gable was the focus of their attacks. And that's because Gable was being very selfish and unfair to his family at the time, American Alpha. It was also right around the same time where we learned Bo Dallas's main driving force and his biggest issue with people in WWE. He couldn't stand all these liars that were backstage that were all in it for themselves and would turn on their close friends in a matter of seconds, all for their own gain. And that's exactly what Chad Gable was doing and why he found himself targeted by the Wyatts. But even in the early days of the feud with Chad Gable, Bo Dallas emphasized that there was multiple false prophets in WWE. He heavily hinted that Chad Gable was not the only one by any means at all. So once the Wyatts successfully took care of Chad Gable, everyone assumed that the Wyatts would be moving on to whoever is their next false prophet. And although there were several strong candidates for who the target could be, it looks like one of them is starting to stand out for the rest as the next clear-cut target. And this new individual is The Miz. The Miz had great and nostalgic year in 2024 after reuniting with R-Truth for the first time in over a decade. They came back together, won the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and were having some great success together. But after not being a fan of some of the decision R-Truth was making, The Miz cut out and abandoned R-Truth. It was right around the same time where the Wyatts' QR codes and screen glitches started appearing during The Miz's segments, a clear indication that he was being watched and potentially targeted. Reason being that The Miz went up against the big Wyatt Sicks #1 rule of betraying your close ones in order to boost yourself up. The feud with Chad Gable clearly established that people do those kinds of things really upset Uncle Howdy. And so now it looks like the example the Wyatts tried making out of American Made was not enough. People are still betraying their family, such as The Miz, who has lost his cool now with R-Truth and wants to go back to focusing on a singles career. But obviously the way The Miz went about that was wrong, with him abandoning and attacking R-Truth. Now The Miz will have to answer to the Wyatt Sicks for his decision to turn on R-Truth. The latest Wyatt Sicks QR codes appear to be heavily hinting towards the October 21st edition of Raw being either the date of the next big teaser or their actual return to WWE television. The Wyatts have quietly gone missing from television for several weeks now since wrapping up that feud with Chad Gable, so if they reappear on the October 21st edition of Raw, that could count as a major return for the group. Another interesting thing to note here is that The Miz is no stranger to the Wyatt universe. The Miz found himself in a pretty insane feud with Bray Wyatt back in late 2019. That feud really heated up when Bray stopped by The Miz's home and dropped off some of his puppets and dolls inside the room of The Miz's children. Things got really personal there, but Bray Wyatt was able to walk out of the feud mostly untouched and victorious. Bray and The Miz would even end up meeting again in 2020. So there's a lot of history there. The Miz has caused some issues for the Wyatt family members in the past, so it'll be interesting to see how they play off that history in this new feud. It'll be the first time that we've seen the Wyatt Sicks actually interact with one of Bray's old rivals. So how will that be handled? How will Howdy react? How will The Miz's history with Bray Wyatt even be acknowledged in the feud are all big questions to ask here. It's also important to point out that The Miz may just be a bridge opponent to get the Wyatts into their actual big next feud, and that's against the Final Testament. And this makes sense because the Final Testament has sort of been hanging around The Miz in recent weeks and trying to instigate his actions lately. And Karrion Kross is perfectly set up to be the ideal antagonist for the Wyatt Sicks because he's on the same path as them, but on the complete opposite side of the road. The Wyatts' main goal right now is trying to show everyone how important family is, and how everyone needs to stay loyal to their close ones, while the Final Testament is trying to instigate their issues between family members and drive them further apart from each other. We've seen Kross stirring the pot with both the New Day and the Awesome Truth, So in a way, you can absolutely argue that Karrion Kross and the Final Testament are the real actual big bad bosses here for the Wyatt Sicks, and maybe The Miz is just the transitional opponent that helps the Wyatts enter the big new feud with Kross and his gang. So you can definitely get the feeling here from what they're setting up with The Miz and Karrion Kross. Wyatts come for The Miz, probably handle him pretty easy since he's only one person after all, and then the Wyatts find themselves face to face with the Final Testament. And that's where the real challenge begins, because that group perfectly matches up with the Wyatts. They have strong soldiers behind them. They have both women and they have both strong leaders. Uncle Howdy's trying to teach people that betraying family members is bad and how everyone should value their close friends, while Kross is trying to teach people to go ahead and betray their family members and be selfish. So the perfect polar opposites that should collide on Raw for a great feud that'll hopefully be a setup even from the Chad Gable feud. If this feud takes place, it'll pretty much be the first real story and program for the Final Testament. They've had little spurts of mini stories over the months, but colliding with the Wyatts will no doubt be the group's first highly featured storyline. Jey Uso recently spoke with Metro UK, and he opened up more about arguably one of the most memorable and iconic segments from the Bloodline, and this was of course the Feeling Oozy segment. Jey acknowledged that this was a fun and cool segment, but how he views it as also his most embarrassing moment on television. Jey said that if you go back and watch, it's supposed to be a serious moment. Jey's character just said that he doesn't care what the tribal chief says, and Roman turned around slowly. But that's when Sami Zayn started breaking everyone with his Feeling Oozy remarks. Jey said he tried looking away from the camera, hiding his face in his hands, but it was clear to everyone what was happening. Jey did say that overall, this was something that he'll probably never replicate again. That segment gave viewers a bit of every single emotion and was something special that Jey just doesn't see anyone recapturing. As far as things go right now with Jey Uso, a lot is happening right now for him. Not only is he still a big part of the Intercontinental title scene on Raw, he also has his brother Jimmy Uso trying to make up with him and recruit him back to link up with the original Bloodline. Jey understandably told Jimmy to get out of his face the second he saw him, but we're to assume that Jimmy will not stop trying to get through to Jey and will eventually get through to him. If Jey is headed back to Smackdown to join the original Bloodline, that sort of implies that he'll have to drop the Intercontinental title and leave it behind on Raw. So we'll see who ends up defeating Jey for the title, and if that individual could be Braun Breaker once again. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.